The Top 10 Authors of the English Southwest. An Introduction. Short stories have always been a sort of instant access into an author's brain, their soul and heart. A few pages can lift our lives into locations, people and experiences with a sweep of landscape, narration, feelings and emotions that are difficult to achieve elsewhere. In this series, we try to offer up tried and trusted top tens across many different themes and authors. But any anthology will immediately throw up the questions, why that story? Why that author? The theme itself will form the boundaries for our stories, which range from well-known classics, newly told, to stories that modern times have overlooked, but perfectly exemplify the theme. Throughout the volume, our authors, whether of instant recognition or new to you, are all leviathans of literature. Some you may disagree with, but they will get you thinking about our choices and about those you would have made. If this volume takes you on a path to discover more of these miniature masterpieces, then we will have all gained something. This limb of land extends into the Atlantic Ocean, its fortunes and livelihood based on what its rugged landscape, its shores and surrounding seas could bring to its people. Within the ranks of these locally born authors are some of our greatest talents. Thomas Hardy, an introduction. Thomas Hardy was born in the hamlet of Upper Bockhampton, about 3 miles east of Dorchester in Dorset, England, on the 2nd of June 1840. Despite a fairly wide education and being an avid reader, his parents thought it unlikely he would lead a successful scholarly or clerical career, and he was apprenticed in 1856, at age 16, to a local architect whose speciality was in church restoration. Hardy's only opportunity to read was in the morning before work, between the hours of 5 and 8. On the back of a failed love affair, he moved to London and spent 5 years working as an assistant to the architect Arthur Blomfield, also a restorer and a designer of churches. Hardy, though, had by now become disillusioned with institutionalized forms of Christianity and abandoned any lingering hopes of ordination in the Anglican Church. However, his writing of poetry was now flourishing, although it was still rejected for publication. His novel, Desperate Remedies, was published anonymously in 1871, and he now resolved to write full-time, though he was not yet in a position to achieve financial security or literary success. His second novel, Under the Greenwood Tree, appeared in 1872, and in 1873, A Pair of Blue Eyes, the most autobiographical of his works, arrived. With Far from the Madding Crowd in 1874 came critical acclaim, public attention and financial success. This was repeated in 1878 with The Return of the Native, and the ensuing years saw him rise to ever greater popularity. His classic, The Mayor of Casterbridge, arrived in 1886, and 5 years later, Tess of the D'Urbervilles. The latter only saw publication after extensive alterations to its plot and the deletion of long passages to lessen the shock to the prudish Victorian audience who were dismayed by the seduction and ruin of a young girl by a rakish aristocrat. Jude the Obscure, his last novel, suffered the same fate when it was published in 1895. The uproar so disturbed him that he returned to poetry. In 1898, he had an earlier poetry collection, Wessex Poems, published. Hardy spent the years between 1903 and 1908 writing The Dynasts, an epic poem on the Napoleonic Wars. In his twilight years came honours and awards from the great and the good, in recognition of his stature as one of the most outstanding of British authors across novels, short stories and poetry. George V conferred on him the Order of Merit in 1910. From 1920 to 27, he worked
Sample complete. Ready to continue?